Nervous system regulation. Kind of a buzzword these days, right? I've seen memes on the internet that are like, don't marry the person with the car, or the money, or the fame. Marry the person who helps you regulate your nervous system. It's becoming really mainstream. And that's a good thing. And I actually think that's pretty sound advice for a partnership. But I suspect that a lot of people don't really understand the difference between nervous system and your mind or your psychology. We have to understand that so that you know when to address each one and how. I'm Griffin from the North Star Body, where we offer solutions to the chronic joint pain, stress, and high-functioning anxiety that's getting in the way of your active lifestyle. And before we dive in to this super important topic, please just touch that like button so this gets out to as many people as possible who need it. And of course, if you like this kind of stuff, subscribe so you don't miss a video. Yes, my sinuses are acting up. No, it's not going to stop me from getting this out to you this week. So let's dive into the discussion. We often equate nervous system regulation with mental health. They affect one another very deeply, but they're not the same. When we talk about mental health or psychology, we are talking about our thoughts, our conscious feelings and emotions. When we talk about the nervous system, most people, when in this kind of context, they're talking about what's called the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system controls the automatic processes in the body, things like heart rate, digestion, where blood flows to, breathing rate when we're not consciously controlling it, those types of things. So you can see right away that the nervous system regulation is physiological, whereas the mind is more psychological. Now they're linked, and the thing that links them most directly is the breath. So there's a reason why we use breath training and breath work for nervous system regulation, and thus to influence levels of stress and anxiety. Well, how does that work? That autonomic nervous system, at the most basic level, is divided into two branches. The sympathetic branch, which is the fight or flight or the heightened state when there's more activity. So when we're in more sympathetic activity, the heart beats faster, the breathing rate increases, blood flows away from the digestive organs into the extremities, basically preparing us for fight or flight. The opposite of that is parasympathetic, which is the lower activity. It's associated with rest and digest. Now, we want to live at a more or less parasympathetic level. It's not one or the other. You can be too sympathetic, where, at the top would be you're about to fight for your life, and at the bottom would be basically in a coma. So you can be too stressed all the time, too sympathetic, or you can be too parasympathetic if you're experiencing something like burnout or depression or chronic fatigue. The name of the game with nervous system regulation is balance and recovery. So you go a little bit heightened and maybe a little bit lower in your autonomic nervous system activity all the time. But the mark of a healthy nervous system is the ability to be able to bounce back to balance, where you're slightly parasympathetic, so you're in kind of rest and digest mode, with the ability to pop into action if you need to, but then come back down to normal. So those of us who are stuck in a chronically sympathetic state, and I don't mean you're always ready to fight, but I mean just chronically slightly elevated, where you're always alert, or you're always have this hum of anxiety going on. That's where nervous system regulation techniques can be especially helpful. Yes, the mind does influence the nervous system. For example, you could have a thought about something that makes you nervous, and your heart can start beating faster, your breathing rate increases. But the more powerful influence is actually the other way around, through the vagus nerve. Excuse me. I told you the sinuses were bad. We're not stopping. The vagus nerve communicates information from the body, sensations from the body, back up to the brain. So by regulating the nervous system, these autonomic processes, we can more effectively tell the brain what state that we're in. So The reason that we use breathing is because it's autonomic and also we can take control of it consciously. So one of the quickest ways, if you are in a heightened state, a lot of sympathetic tone, to start to down-regulate back to parasympathetic states is to slow down your breathing. The slow breathing, the rate of the breathing, communicates up to the brain through the vagus nerve that the stress is lowering, which may then influence your thoughts and your emotions and your feelings. There's literature out there that suggests that we experience the nervous system change first before we perceive conscious feelings or emotions. So the quickest and most effective way to influence our thoughts, feelings, and emotions over time is to address the autonomic nervous system first. So, how else can we address that other than the breath? Connection with other human beings, eye contact, hugging, vulnerable conversations, all with people you know and love and trust, obviously. Getting outside in nature, distraction-free, broadening the gaze, getting sand or grass or dirt on your feet, sunshine in your eyes, gentle movement, massage, myofascial release, foam rolling. Any of these things can be really helpful to get you slowly back into more of a parasympathetic state if you're chronically stressed or elevated. Breathing, as I mentioned before, is the most accessible because you don't need a foam roller, you don't need to take your shoes off, you don't need to get somewhere else quiet in nature, you don't need another person. All you need to do is close your mouth, breathe in, low and expansively, and breathe out for longer than you breathe in. Right away, that's going to help dictate the autonomic processes going on in the body, slowing them down and getting them more parasympathetic. There's a time and a place to address the psychology, the thoughts, the mind. But for a lot of us, just first focusing on regulating the autonomic nervous system in these ways can do wonders for how safe our body feels before we're even thinking about anything. And that, in my opinion, is the most important place to start.